What would make you really happy? Retirement, leisure, so you can play lots of golf, lounge at a beach, maybe wake up at noon, have a martini? Plenty of people think something like that sounds like a dream life. But my next guest says no. Leisure and luxury don't really make people happy. What does is, well, I'll let him tell about it. Stephen Post works at a medical school where he does research on what causes happiness. So, what causes happiness?
Contributing to the lives of others. 76% of Americans say that the thing that makes them most happy is helping others.
Giving to charity.
Giving to charity economically or doing face-to-face, one-on-one helping activity, absolutely.
Even better doing face-to-face.
Even better, because it involves more of the biological mechanisms in what's called now the caregiving system.
And we've covered some of the other things that the scientists say contribute to happiness beside luxury and leisure, which doesn't last, but religion, having family and friends to interact with, moving toward a goal.
Yes.
But you say giving to others is the king.
Absolutely. 41% of Americans volunteered in 2009.
It's pretty high. It's almost half of America.
It's pretty darn high. 68% of the volunteers self-report that this makes them feel physically healthier. 96% say that it makes them feel happier. 76% say that it reduces their stress. They say it makes them sleep better. Let me tell you, if you could take these outcomes and put them in a bottle, like that one on the desk, and sell it at the drugstore, you'd be a billionaire overnight.
And it's sort of counterintuitive. People might say, if I'm giving to charity or helping others, I'm taking something from me. I'm losing.
Well, you know, if you overdo it, that's actually true. So the studies are talking about relatively low, quote,
Are there people who overdo it?
Yeah, there are people who overdo it, and they do get stressed out, and they can get burned out. It doesn't take a lot. It's not that you have to give and give and give and give, but you have to move away from the self, the preoccupations of the self, the negative emotions, hostility, rumination, bitterness. Whenever you reach out and you help another person sincerely, there's an emotional shift that occurs, and it's very healthy.
And this is not just self-reporting. There are also brain tests.
Oh, yes. There are famous brain tests now from 2006. Jorge Moll, a famous neuroscientist at the NIH in Washington, he took people just like you and me off the street, and he brings you into a lab. He sits you down and he puts an fMRI device on your head. It's like a bathing cap, and it's got little electrodes that measure areas of activity in the brain.
Different parts of the brain.
Different parts of the brain, yes. He gives each subject a menu of charities that they could consider contributing to. And when they do that, a part of the brain gets active. It's a deeply evolved part of the brain. It's called the don't write this down, audience, the mesolimbic pathway. It's the part of the brain that is associated with feelings of joy and that even doles out feel-good chemicals like dopamine.
Now, I've noticed some of this, and that until I was in my mid-30s, I didn't give much to charity, but then people would pay me a lot of money to make a speech, and I thought as a consumer reporter I shouldn't be keeping the money. I could be accused of being on the take, so I started giving to charities. And now it is kind of like I'm addicted, like, gee, I need to help, I need to keep doing this.
Well, it's good to be doing that, John. Don't worry about yourself. You're happier.
No, I agree. But I only stumbled into it.
You only stumbled into it.
I haven't met you yet, so I didn't know about this stuff.
Well, that's right. So everybody stumbles into this, hopefully, at some point in their lives. Earlier is better. The studies we have of the young kids who get acculturated to helping others shows that it actually provides a kind of protective halo. Their whole life long, they're more resistant to depression. They have lower rates of heart disease. This is a famous study that was done out of the University of Berkeley in California. So get started early. We ought to recognize that this is a tremendously important lesson in our society. There are many cultural factors that somehow create the myth that our natures are utterly foul and corrupt. I don't say that our natures are perfect by any means. I'm not naive. But the bottom line is that when we stay in touch with that capacity to care and give, we do flourish.
There are some people who flourish being nasty.
Well, there are. I mean, there are a certain number of people who are technically sociopaths. Now, you know, studies vary, but it could be 2 or 3% of the population. Some say 4%.
But most of us benefit from being nice? Maybe it's not altruistic. We're getting something out of it.
Well, so this is a really interesting question. As a human creature, we cannot give, we cannot be generative and contribute to the lives of others without, in fact, ourselves feeling a certain kind of generativity, warmth. We even have a hormone, oxytocin, that gets circulated in those kinds of activities that creates a sense of serenity and calmness and inner peace. And this is
so it's not altruistic. It's selfish.
Well,
to feel good, to give to others.
There's an element of self-flourishing involved, and that's perfectly fine, and I'm all for it. Anybody who's talking about somehow giving as being inauthentic, not really being genuine, simply because we have these feelings of exhilaration and purpose and gratification, that somehow that makes it less valid to give. That's completely contrary to how we are hardwired as human creatures. We are evolved in such a way that we actually have these kinds of benefits, and thank goodness we do.
Now, there are people on the left who would say it's government's job to give to others, and it makes me feel good to raise taxes and increase the handouts. That makes them happy, maybe.
It does, but I'll tell you, it's really person to person that makes the difference. These are experiences that you can't delegate to a bureaucracy. They have to do with person A and person B, typically in a face-to-face relationship which is healthy and helpful. It is, by the way, the case that when you volunteer, you want to work with a group that you feel you're called to. Because when that happens, people come together, they form deeper friendship networks, they celebrate, they acknowledge their activities, and that's also sustaining. So in a sense, then, you can do this solo, but it's a good thing to have it organized in some kind of a communal way.
Thank you, Stephen Post. His latest book is called The Hidden Gifts of Helping. Next, if we take one of these pills, will we get happier? Lots of people say, yes, yes, we can. That's next.